All right, it's 12:30, and we might as well get started. People who come in late can pick up afterwards. We're doing digital photography today. I'm Dusty Stiles. This is Tandy Wilson. For anybody who doesn't know that, what we're going to do, we're going to start with some group questions, and I wanted to do this so that you get a chance to see what anybody else is doing in digital photography. So you can see either go shoot with somebody or ask questions to somebody in case you get stuck. For example, oops, I think I skipped one. No, that's right. Okay, that's right. This is the overview. This is what we're going to hit today. Group questions. How to take the picture, how to transfer images to the computer, basic photo editing, posting and sharing, and then getting into photo books. We don't have to do it all. We don't have to go into great detail, but what we'd like to do is handle it at the level of interest where you are. So if you want more information, we've got it handy. So questions. Who shoots digital photos now? Just about everybody, most everybody. Handouts right there. Just about everybody. Okay, who shoots with an iPhone, pretty much exclusively, with an iPhone or an iPad or one of the small, okay, you two, anybody else? Okay, everybody else is shooting more, yeah. How about a digital adjustable camera? Now that's even the little ones that you stick in your pocket and you can adjust and make some adjustments and changes, but it's not a. Well, chances are, yeah, they might or might not have focusing adjustment. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. We'll get into that. And then who shoots with a DSLR? Who's got a okay? Yep, excellent. Okay, so notice we have the entire range here from the camera. Now I have an older version. This does have a camera on it, and as part of this setup, I went through to find out what settings I had on this because I'd never bothered to use them, and I found it interesting to see what's on this. To make for adjustments. Let me start first, though, with shooting the picture. With any camera, you need to figure out, you need to decide what your point of interest is, and in many cases, the point of interest is going to be a person. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a rock. Sometimes it's a valley, stream, who knows. And the thing that you want to take a look at is what's going to be the point of interest on it. For example, if we wanted to shoot this group, and the point of the picture was to say, we have a group here watching a presentation. Chances are there's a possibility we would set right up here and shoot the whole group. If we wanted to identify somebody in the group, possibly we would go over here and we would adjust it so that the group is in the background and particular people are here. It's basically the same situation, but your emphasis is very different. Let's say you wanted to demonstrate that in this particular session, people are using materials. So you might shoot here, this information is in the foreground, the people are in the background. It's the same setting, the point of interest is different. And it will help when you're shooting anything, people, groups, things of interest to you. Let's say you walk into somebody's house and here's this great flower, or this great piece of foliage. And you have several options. You can walk up right to it, shoot it solid, and essentially isolate everything that's around it by not shooting that, or back up a little bit and identify the plant and include some of the setting, or you can back up a good deal, get the plant generally in the foreground and get the house and the greenery in the same picture. Now, it's handy to do all of that. It's handy to walk in and say, oh, what a great thing. You run up to it, you shoot what you have in mind. And you think, oh, yeah, kind of, maybe I should identify its environment. So you back up a little bit. Maybe I should remember where I shot this. You back up a little more. And that way, what you get is the full scope of it. And when you get to using the picture, sending it to somebody, you have several choices. You might send them all. Or you might just send one of them. But anyway, you have them. And since it's digital, it doesn't cost you anything to shoot it. Since it's digital, it's minimal to save it. We'll get to how to find it afterwards. But you have those variations, and it's easy to do. Next, framing the picture. You may want to take. When I was teaching English in Abington, Pennsylvania, we used to do lots of large group sessions, and I would find myself shooting artwork, historic artwork. And as part of that, I was also teaching a humanities course and was showing movies and films and talking about artistic principles and stuff. And I started working with the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds essentially is a concept that where you break the picture down into a grid, and where the lines intersect are generally the strongest points in the picture. So when you're shooting somebody, if you can get the eyes in the upper third, on the upper third line, your picture is going to be stronger than if the eyes are in the middle or if their eyes are lower down. It's almost straightforward. And I find myself laying out this rule of thirds on 14th century, 15th century paintings. By golly, if the eyes didn't line up, if the points of interest didn't line up, if the hands holding something weren't right on that mark, and it's not that they were sitting there with the rule of thirds working this out, it's where those points of interest actually fall. And it's a logical. So if you can create your picture with the highlights where you want placed close to those, you're in good shape. Yeah.
You use the grid on your camera?
Actually, there's no grid, but yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Though I'll very often, the grid very often will come after in cropping. Yeah.
You know, referring to the vertical thirds and the horizontal thirds.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got the whole thing. Now, if you crop that picture a little bit, the rule of thirds works even a little better. And all I did there was just crop the room out. I shot them a little wide on purpose so that I could move them around in the frame afterwards to make that work. Okay, back to our questions here. Oh, I'm in here someplace. That's where I am. Thank you. All right. Rule of thirds. Oh, now, sometimes you want to hold the camera level and steady. That's fairly easy to do. If you have a tree, line up the edge with the tree. If you have got a house, line the edges up. Some of the photographers carry a little clip-on level. It slides right in the hot shoe. You can buy. They're made in China. They're $5 a piece. They're green. They're easy to see, and it means you can line the camera up so that you know you're horizontal if it's important. But generally, it works better to have it level. I can't tell you how many pictures I see online. oh, look at this great picture of this person, and they're tilted one way or the other. Now, nobody cares, actually, except if they didn't notice it, then it's distracting, because you don't look at the person anymore, you look at the tilted picture. There's a real big difference. There's a difference between shooting a picture of something and shooting a picture of something in its environment. And those two things can make a big difference depending on how you're going to use the picture. Now, most of these cameras, I'm sure you know it already, and I'll just say it again. You hold the trigger halfway down. These digital cameras will focus and set the f-stop, set the shutter speed, do all of that, line it up, and then press the shutter down the rest of the way. With the non-DSLRs, with the smaller cameras, very often there's a wait. There's a shutter lag. So you hold it down, and if your dog is jumping up and doing wonderful things, you very likely are going to click the shutter, and then he's gone, and then it fires. So there's sort of a disadvantage with using those cameras, though I'm sure you get really used to how to manage that. But still, it helps. It's harder to shoot those kinds of things. The other, since the camera does all that work, I'm in two positions on that. It's nice to have a camera that you just pick up, aim generally at somebody, push the button, and you're done. That way you've got the shot. On the other hand, it's nice to have a camera where you can say, okay, I want a particular shutter speed, I want a particular f-stop, I want it to look more or less like this. Not only that, I want to underexpose it a little bit so that there's white stuff in the picture that's not overexposed and it gives me trouble later on. So it's handy even if you have a camera that's not a DSLR. If it has controls, especially something like underexposure by a third of a stop or 2/3 of a stop, it's handy to use because then you don't overexpose those white areas or those brightly lit areas, and you still have information in there. Okay, and in addition, when you're doing the shooting, sometimes it's nice to notice the light source. How many times have you seen a picture of somebody standing there and the sunshine is blowing them right in the face? You have there's very little detail. Everything is flat, and you just get a picture of this very squinty person. So if you notice where the sun is and you turn the person slightly, then all of a sudden you're shooting this way. You've got a shot across. You have some additional shadows, and you get roundness and you get shape that you wouldn't get with it straight on. How many times have you seen somebody standing with their back to the light, and you get this great shot of this wonderful picture, but the person is so dark you can't see him anyway, partly because the background is so light, where if you went up close enough and filled them with more than half of the frame, the camera would lighten up and not be so overpowered by the background. The person would be lighter, you could see the detail, and you would still have the background. The trick is, the camera's going to go crazy trying to hear all this. The trick is to decide which it is you want. You want the great sunset with the shadow of the person? Wonderful, no problem. That's what you get, even though with your eye you can see the person perfectly clearly. The camera, however, is going to meter the scene, and it's going to see all that brightness and shut it down so that the brightness gets really clear and the person gets dark. So to solve that, you move forward a little bit, fill the screen with the person with that really nice color in the background, and you should be able to get closer to both. Sometimes if you get too close to the subject, you're going to cut stuff off. That's sort of what I started with. If you get too close to somebody and you want the surrounding area, you won't get it. Sometimes you get so close that the camera won't focus, in which case you lose it. You've seen that a number of times, I'm sure. What a great shot. Looks great in the viewfinder, because the viewfinder is giving you a live picture, which is sometimes going to be clearer than the actual photograph. Sometimes it's good to make several exposures. One reason is that your chip could record a picture badly. If it's an important picture, you might want to shoot it twice just to make sure that they both got recorded on the chip well. Then of course you have to go back and delete it, because otherwise you have these multiple photographs all over the place. But it's handy to shoot several. Yep, Bruce?
Can you do double exposure?
Not with this. With this one, you would then go to Photoshop and make a layer. You'd take the two pictures and layer them on top of each other, and then you have the double image to work with. You can erase the part of one picture that you don't want and leave the other one.
Because with the old film cameras.
Right, right. As far as I know, this one doesn't. Now, maybe the higher ends ones do. This is sort of a mid-range prosumer. This is the Canon Rebel series, and it's pretty good for prosumer. I was at a photo club meeting last night where this guy shoots a scene and he lights his scenes with about 1,000 exposures, lighting the scene with a flashlight, and he'll stack those 1,000 pictures and then erase sections and come up with absolutely spectacular, gorgeous scenes that you cannot shoot without 1,000 lights. So that kind of thing is available, provided you want to take the time. We're here sort of at a stage where we run out, shoot the car, great, get a great picture of the car, send it off to Johnny and to see how the car looks today. And then changing settings on the camera. I mentioned already, if your camera can do it, sometimes it's handy to underexpose a little bit so that you don't lose detail. In black and white, in film photography, you used to overexpose a little bit because if the dark areas of the negative were too dark, there was no detail there. And so you would tend to push the highlights a little bit. Digital photography is the reverse. If you get a white image in a digital file, the information there doesn't exist anything beyond that. So what you want to do is hold the whites as much as possible, because the blacks, even though you can't see them, will come up some. But the whites cannot be pulled down. If they're gone, yeah.
What does it mean to hold the whites?
Underexposed slightly. In other words, let's say, for example, we're shooting a picture of you and your glasses should happen to be glaring at some point. We can choose whether that glare is going to stay white with no detail in it, or whether if we underexpose a little bit so that the glare in your glasses is detail and we can use it if we decide to. Okay? Same kind of thing. So you're shooting at a house, right? And you got a window. The window glares. You can decide whether you want the detail in the window or not by underexposing slightly.
But then you have to fiddle with things on your
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Now, an advantage to these kinds of cameras is you have all that information right available. There's no menu that you have to go through. The smaller cameras, you do have to go through menus, and that just by itself slows people down. Oh, God, I don't want to go through that menu again. Let me just take the picture. Right? So with a couple of buttons, you can underexpose on this. You can even put this one on automatic and tell it for whatever picture you want every picture underexposed by 1/3 stop, and this will do that. Doesn't matter what else you shoot. Yeah. Yep.
some of them.
Yep.
Have a separate thing where I can just say, it's kind of a manual override just for that part to take it down a couple notches.
I think mine does it, but it's sort of like, it's too much for me to memorize,
Exactly.
That's why there's post. That's why you get to play with them after.
Right. Right. Yeah. So that helps a lot. Okay. I think we're.
tripod stuff.
Oh, tripod. Let me talk about tripods for a second. The current really good idea is the GorillaPod. Okay, these are why don't you demonstrate that? Those they wrap around things. They're very light. They work really well, especially for the smaller, lighter cameras.
So it can hang. It can wrap around a tree, a post, a bridge. I take it hiking. It goes very nicely in my back pocket or in my purse. They also come this big. I mean, they're huge. So they will do. There's bigger ones that will do a huge video camera even. So, but these are great because Any camera store. Fry's has them. I've seen them at Best Buy. Yeah. So all different sizes. This is the tiniest one I've seen. I think actually they're making a tinier one now. This one, the little shoe changes, and it has a little attachment with the suction cup, so I can put my iPhone on it if I want to. So.
There are, no.
Just a general.
Every camera has a screw on the bottom. It's a 1/4 screw, a 1/4 inch diameter, 20 threads per inch. That's standard on the bottom of every camera in the world. So you buy one of these. This is another one that's a Seek lamp that has a wood screw in the bottom. I took this to the Great Smokies and screwed it into dead wood and did time exposures without carrying a heavy tripod around. This one has a little tripod that comes out the bottom. Screw it back up again, set your tripod. The reason I have these is my camera's heavier than will work with the small GorillaPod. So I either have to take a really big GorillaPod or I have to take something that's fairly sturdy. Another thing that's handy to have is the monopod. You can get a lot of stability out of a monopod, and it doesn't take up much space. And it's very light. You strap it onto your backpack, your day pack, whatever, and you have a support no matter where you are. The other thing to use instead of a tripod sometimes is just anything that's useful. Brick wall, tree, rock, anything that you can lean against will allow you to shoot at a lower shutter speed so that you get a sharper picture. The other two things that come in, I actually carry this most of the time. That's because it's nice and sturdy, and it has it'll just snap into place so that it's easy on and easy off. And the advantage is you can do handheld, put it on the tripod, take it off, put it on, and it gives you a lot of flexibility. A lighter version of it would be something like this. This is what we take, what I usually take into the river, into the LA River, when we're stomping around down there, and I don't care if it gets all wet. And it's very light. It weighs next to nothing. So you have tons of options. And my suggestion is have a tripod, anything that will give you the support when, and that, that 1,000th photograph, that one time when you want it. All right.
Before you go on,
Yes.
would you make a comment about how to hold the camera by hand?
Sure. Usually, why don't you hold this? Usually I support it with one hand and shoot it with the other, and that works both ways. Did you have something else in mind?
Well, I did the same thing. What I have found is that my arm against my body
Oh, yeah.
makes it much more stable than holding it like this.
Yeah.
And you got this very unstable.
Right, yeah, I guess that's so automatic that that you forget, yeah. You want all the stability you can get. The rule of thumb is you want your shutter speed to be at least as fast as your lens. So if you're using a 100 millimeter lens, you should be using 100th of a second shutter speed and nothing slower, unless you have additional support of some kind. Using a 200 millimeter lens, you need a minimum of a 200th of a second, 500 and so forth. That's the rule of thumb. Now this has stabilization. These lenses, some of these lenses have stabilization in them, so you can add a couple more f-stops if you want to and still be okay. You can go down from 100 to 50 to maybe 30 if your stabilization is on because the camera is busy holding the picture steady. The opposite to that, of course, is you never want the stabilization. If you have stabilization in your camera, you put your camera on a tripod, take the stabilization off because the camera is busy constantly trying to get the camera stabilized. And I have watched it taking a long exposure picture with my stabilization. I've watched the picture move, and I've looked at the picture afterward. It's fuzzy because it's in motion, because the doggone motor is trying to do its job, and you're on a tripod and you're doing two two stabilizations at the same time, and you're going to lose your picture. So it was a good lesson. This was the middle of the night at Mono Lake, under full moon, trying to get full moon pictures in focus, and they're all fuzzy.
That's primary for long exposure.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to put it on a tripod, yeah, I would guess if you're if a 50th, 60th of a second or longer, you probably don't have to worry too much about the stabilization. But it's still it's a better rule of it's better to remember it if you can. What else? Okay. Thank you. I took out my camera and I found these settings on it. I'm going to go through these real fast. The reason for running through this is so that you know if you have a camera, you probably have these settings on there should you choose to use them. Okay, should you choose to use them. This camera will take still or video pictures. I don't use it, but I noticed that it does. Yours probably do too. This one will do video. I have been told that some of the sports photographers, commercial sports photographers, have been shooting video in football because the frame size is big enough to get great prints out of the video. So what they do is they shoot a play, and then they can pull out of that play any frame that works for them because these DSLRs have gotten so good that the video single frame is good enough to use. That's just astonishing. Just astonishing. Video in the smaller ones is going to be so-so, I imagine, and it's not something I would tend to use anyway. See, we have a video going right there. On this camera, once I take the picture, I can save it, send it, or erase it. You probably have exactly the same thing. Tandy is busy doing emails and pops a picture into the email and sends it off. It goes very quickly. I tend not to do that, but it's there. Save internal or external. This particular camera has a chip in it. There's the chip. That's a 4 gigabyte chip. I could put about 2,000 pictures on there and forget that I've got them. Now, what do I do with it? The nice thing about the chip is you can put this in the computer and take them off your camera phone and then manipulate them from there. It's handy, and I have some samples. I have some samples here of it. That's the wrong one, sorry. Okay, that's the camera phone picture. It looks fairly good. There's enough detail. You can read the lettering, not too bad. That one is in daylight mode. You have color temperature modes on your camera. That's going to be in shade mode. You notice the colors are slightly different. This is going to be in tungsten mode, I think. It's going to warm it up a little bit. And I think that's in black and white. Just the same shot. Now, you can be doing that in your camera. You all have it, I'm sure, whether you ever used it or not. The advantage to setting your color temperature is most useful if you have a series. Let's say you're shooting a wedding or you're shooting a party, and you set your camera at a particular white balance, then all the pictures are going to be of the same color cast. And if you want to change it, you can change them all the same amount. If you stay in automatic, your camera will look for white every time you shoot the picture. It'll look for something white and match its picture to it. It'll do that for every picture, and they could all be slightly different. And if it's important to you, then you're going to have to fix all of those differently because you used automatic white balance. When it's on the automatic settings. For the most part, leave it on auto. I know I've spoken to pros who shoot everything auto. They don't care. They're going to fix them anyway. They're going to process them additionally anyway, so it doesn't matter. But let me go back to this. So we're on internal, external, getting the pictures off. Shutter speed, shutter sound. Mine will do the shutter sound, the click, click. It'll do no sound at all. It'll say cheese, or it'll say ready, 1, 2, 3. And I thought, how stupid is that? And then I realized that if I set this on ready, 1, 2, 3, I tend to hold the camera steadier. It was a useful device, so I've left it that way. Of course, when I'm in a meeting and I accidentally bump my camera at it, it's busy talking to me. It's kind of embarrassing, but I found that it helped me take a better picture if I used that silly sound, because while it's saying ready, 1, 2, 3, you're holding it nice and steady, and then it clicks. And I found if I used no sound at all, or if I used the shutter, then I assumed that the shutter happened after the picture. So I was busy moving it around, and then it takes the picture, and then it makes the shutter sound. So I found this useful. Stupid, but useful. And finally, you can set this for full screen or actual view, and I never did really figure out what that meant, but I imagine on your screen, you have a variation of how big you see the picture. In addition, you have photometry now. They're calling it photometry. This is a meter reading. Your camera will read the scene in several ways, and generally it's set up so that it sees an average, sees all the light in the room, and it sets an average setting, and that's what you get. If you use the spot setting, whatever's in the center of the picture is what it's going to take as an exposure. So if you're pointing at somebody's face, it'll expose for the face and forget about the rest of the room. So it could be underexposed or overexposed. If what you're interested in is the face, then you've got the face fine, and who cares about the room? I found more useful what's called spot multiple. It takes various sections of the room and averages off of that instead of the entire room. And I found that to be enough more accurate that I left the camera in that position. Now, on this camera, you have 12 or 14 points, and you can select which one or all of them. So you can let it. You can set your shot up so that it focuses. It takes the setting off something over there, even though you're shooting over here. It's just one more device. White balance, I just explained white balance. Oh, so resolution. The pictures that you just saw from my camera phone were shot at 1280 by 960. I try to shoot in the largest file size possible, because you never know. I've got to tell you, I went to Africa. I shot 3,000 pictures in Africa. I got them all. That's not the problem. And it's not a problem. I shot them all in medium JPEG. Medium JPEG, so they were all probably half of the quality that the camera could produce at the time. But what I wanted to be able to do was fire a lot rapidly. I wanted animals in action, and I knew that if I was working with big file sizes, it would take longer for the camera to store the pictures, and I wouldn't be able to get as many. So that was a conscious choice, to shoot with lower quality so I could get more pictures, so that hopefully I would have a better chance of getting something I really liked. Lately, I'm not doing that. I'm shooting with as big of files as I can. White balance we did. Color effects. I showed you the black and white. I personally don't have much interest in shooting an original picture with color overlay on it, so I don't use it much, but it's there. Should you guys, let's say you're visiting grandparents or something and you want to shoot in black and white, great. You want to shoot sepia, no problem. You can do that without having to process the pictures afterwards. Night mode on and off. Generally, night mode means the camera gets more, I'm sorry.
Oh, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I just wanted to add to the resolution thing.
Yeah,
One of the good reasons to shoot as high a resolution as you can sometimes is so that if you want to crop just a small area of
Yeah.
the photograph, you still have enough resolution in that cropped
Right.
part of it, possibly to make it print
Yep.
or, to do whatever you want with it.
yeah. The bigger the file size, the better in general, especially if you're going to print. Now, if you're only going to email, if you're only going to keep the picture small, make nothing bigger than 4 by 6 inches, or if you're just going to email back and forth, this wouldn't matter. The 320 by 240 is probably about as small as you could email. That looks really great as an email picture. But it doesn't look good if you try to blow it up screen size. It'll get fuzzy and it'll break up. Color effects, night mode, self-timer. You can put the camera up, walk in front of it, and 2 seconds later it'll fire, or 5 seconds or 10 seconds. I very often use the timer to set on the tripod. If I'm trying to shoot a scenic, I'll put it on the timer so I don't have to touch the camera. The camera will fire by itself, and there won't be any vibration from me trying to press the trigger, press the shutter. So it's useful for other things than just turning it on, running in front of it, and making sure you've got your picture, which is what it usually is. All right, transfer to computer. Why don't you pick it up from here?
Okay, so there's lots of ways that you can. Oh, he's not done. There's lots of ways that you can transfer, and not necessarily just to your computer. Some of you, if you have a DSLR or if you have a camera like this one, you might be doing it with a cable. You might be doing it like I do it with this one, where I actually have a card in here called an Wi-Fi card that it is its own little Wi-Fi sensor, and so it will automatically upload whenever I'm within Wi-Fi range, which it doesn't look any different. Okay, it's bright orange. It doesn't look any different otherwise, but what it does is while I'm taking pictures at home and I'm on my Wi-Fi network, it's automatically uploading them to wherever I want, which is great for a party because then they're coming up on the computer in the living room, and people are seeing all the pictures that are going on.
Real quickly, can you print, in other words, if they had those photo booths in the older days, could you do that? So as you're taking pictures.
It making print, not in the strip probably,
No,
but oh yeah, that they then go and print. Oh yeah. I mean, one of the things that we do when we do the Children's Smart is Rick's taking pictures with his big camera with this card in. I'm sitting on the computer. It's automatically transferring them to this computer, and then I'm sitting there printing them out. So there's no swapping of cards that needs to happen. We do it that way sometimes too. So that's a cool way to do it. If you are doing your picture taking on your iPhone, for example, just a second, Ellen. If you're doing picture taking on your iPhone, for example, and you are on iCloud, then it will photo stream automatically up to your cloud, onto your iPad, wherever you want it to go. It will also, you don't even have to be on a Wi-Fi network. It creates its own little Wi-Fi network between your iPad and your iPhone. So it will automatically go over there if you've told it to do that. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that you're going to get your pictures from this, or your iPad, or that to somewhere else. The important part about that, make sure you're getting them somewhere else. Don't just leave them on one or the other thing. Don't have them only in one place. My father-in-law, when he first got his camera like this, and he would take the pictures, and his little card would come out, and then he would go buy another one because he thought this was like film. Now, this was several years ago, but he would keep all of these little cards, and that's where all of his pictures were. He'd go buy a new one every time it filled up. So, yeah. So it's one of those things. Make sure, if this gets lost or destroyed, your pictures are gone, right? If they're off of your phone, if you lose your phone, they're gone. Make sure that they are going somewhere else, that they're getting backed up somewhere else. And we're going to talk about a bunch of different places that you can do that. I think we did all of that.
Yeah, we did that.
Great.
We're too efficient.
Moving along. Yeah, see, don't leave photos on one device. So if you leave with nothing else, remember that one thing. Yeah.
Think about your picture. You've got this really nice picture. What is it? It's ones and zeros. It's a little tiny speck on a card. That's all it is. It's not a picture. It's digital magnetic information. And if you only have one copy of it, it's so easy to lose it. At least make sure that it's on your computer. The next thing that would be useful to do is either put it on the cloud or put it on an external drive so you have two copies. I use a RAID drive, which automatically backs up everything I put on it, makes a double copy. And I did that because I had a row of hard drives, and I got really tired of backing them up all the time, hoping I wouldn't mess up. But if you lose that little piece of digital information, there's no picture left.
And if you've printed them, you say, oh, but I have it as a print. Trying to scan it back in is not always the best form. So as we talk about organizing photos, so you've taken this whole set of pictures. There's the next step of what do I do with it. It used to be that you would print it out. You would take your set of film, and you would go to Target or Walmart or wherever, and you would get a set of prints, and they might go in a box, or they might go in a photo album eventually. My oldest daughter has a photo album. My youngest daughter does not. She's 22, and the youngest one's 19. Someday I will eventually get to those things, but that is not today. What is happening now is that there's all different kinds of ways to share your pictures. So you've taken all of these wonderful pictures, you've documented all of these wonderful things, and all of these electronic gizmos are now giving you other ways that you can share those pictures with your friends so they're not sitting in a box somewhere. The first one, I would say, well, let's talk about organizing a little bit. So the first thing is you need to know where your pictures are, right? When Dusty and I were talking about this, why don't you bring up Lightroom or AC/DC? So when Dusty and I were talking about this, we were going to talk a little bit about how you organize so that you can find them by date. If you name your files with the year first, so they sort, all of that. If you do the year and then the month and then the date and then what it is, and admittedly, that's how I have done it for a very long time. We have a server at home that has all of our pictures from 1998 to 2000. And so you can see he's got it set up so that he knows where all of those pictures are. Things are changing a little bit because as you take more and more photos, and he talked about that being that piece of data, it's not just a picture anymore. If you're taking it with I don't know if your camera, I think your camera does geotagging.
No.
It doesn't do geotagging? No. This one will do geotagging, which basically means that it also knows where that picture was taken exactly, as in latitude and longitude, and will show you on a map. It can recognize faces once I put it into iPhoto. So it's giving you all of this information tagged with each particular picture, not just what frame rate it was taken at and those kinds of things, but also where it was taken and who's in the picture. It also, once you've started to organize it, if you've added comments or flagged it or done any of those things, then it attaches that as part of the tag to the picture. So when you email it, all of that can go with it. So,
let me give you an example of
yeah.
that. Over here, a year ago, Ted sent me a picture. There it is. It's not Ted's?
Yeah,
Oh. Yeah. Shoot, I can't. Shoot. Let me get, I know we're in here. All right. If we look at this, no, I'm missing my frame. I won't take the time. Over on this side is the camera that he used, the lens that he used, the shutter speed, the f-stop. All the information came with the picture when I brought it up. And at the moment, I can't seem to find it, but
I'll show you what that looks like in iPhoto.
Yep.
So up on the side here, see it tells me what kind of camera I used, how big it is, how large the file is, what it's saved as, the ISO. Look, there's the comments, the date, the time. I can add a whole description, and it doesn't have any faces in it, so we haven't tagged any faces.
Yeah.
So this one wasn't assigned a place, but if it was taken with the geotagged camera, because I didn't have that camera yet, then it would show a map of where I had taken that picture.
How recent is this information?
The geotagging stuff?
Even the data?
That's been for years. Yeah.
Yeah.
I go back 10 years and still find that information.
You can also, if you've scanned a picture in, you can go in and change. So if you know what date, because when you scan it in, that will be the date for the picture, right? But that's not actually the date of the picture. You can go into whatever thing, ACDC or iPhoto or whatever, and change what the origination date is. And you can batch do that, which means that if I've got a whole bunch of pictures that I've scanned in and they're all the same date, I can change all of them without going through one by one by one, which is a good thing. Okay, let's go back to, where are we at? Oh, we're still on organizing, aren't we? Okay, so here's the thing that I want you to remember. These are all the different ways that you can now use your pictures. And I'm going to miss one, I know it. I've taken my picture and I want my daughter to see it because it's a wonderful picture. Or I've taken a picture of one of my friend's kids and I want them to see it. So if I'm on Facebook, obviously I can share it on Facebook. Now I've gone to Hawaii, which I did. And I don't want to tell you how many pictures I took. I took a lot of pictures. I don't want to maybe share all of them, but let's say I have like 300 of them that I want to share. I probably don't want to post 300 of them to Facebook. Part of the reason is because most of my friends really don't care. They maybe want to see 25, right? So I take my top 25 pictures, or I'm uploading while I'm there. Look what I did today. Isn't this wonderful? I'm so relaxed. But otherwise, I have my mom who wants to see the whole trip, right? She wants to see everything. So that's where you want to have another share site that you then keep those pictures, use those pictures, share those pictures. A really good example of this actually is my Girl Scout troop, because we want to share the pictures with all the girls and all the parents from the whole year throughout the year. So one of the things that we used, I get back from an event, put a few of them up on Facebook, they all comment, oh, look how wonderful, we had a great time. The other reason you don't want to use Facebook all the time for sharing a lot of them is that they're a smaller size. So if anybody wants to print them out, it's not going to look that great. It looks great on screen, but it's not going to look that great for printing them out. So we have lots of different places that you can use. If you look on here, on your little handout, there's the store and share pictures. So the first one, obviously, we talked about was Facebook. My Girl Scout troop actually uses Shutterfly because you can do, not only I put pictures up on my site, but then there's a share site for our whole troop, and anybody who's put pictures, they can all put them into that one place and share. Yes?
Okay. So, for something like Shutterfly, let's say you have a 20 megabyte file, you want to keep in case you want to make a print.
Okay?
Do you have to resize it before you upload to Shutterfly?
No.
Or does it do it on the fly?
You can tell it what size. Yeah. Almost all of them, you can tell what size you want it to go up there.
Do they have a limit or, I mean, don't they have a limit?
They do have a limit. I haven't hit it, and I've uploaded a whole bunch of pictures. It really depends on, I'm going to show you a couple more. It really depends on how you want to share your pictures. We'll talk about Zang Zing for you later, because I know you were moving from Mobile Me and that whole problem. And I'm going to show you Zang Zing here next.
If you're done with your talk, I just want to go back to that question at the beginning of your spiel.
Okay.
We can do it later.
Okay. So Shutterfly, one of the cool things that you can do is make share sites that are specific to an event and invite people that can only look at just that. So if you've had a big family weekend and you don't want your family to see all of your pictures, but you wanted to make one place where they can come look just for stuff at that event, it's like doing your own little slideshow, but you don't have to have them all over in your living room and feed them. Then there's a lot of people use Flickr. I actually don't have a Flickr account. You'll notice that a lot of these are by different companies that do all kinds of other things. Flickr is a Yahoo thing. Picasa is a Google thing. I don't remember. Yes, somebody did just buy it. Yeah, that's going to be really interesting.
Let me add something
Yep.
at this point. There's also a terms of use. Picasa, for example, says that it's okay for it to use your photographs in its advertising if you put stuff up on Picasa. And others may be like that, but you really need to check to see if you put something up that you want to keep proprietary, you may not want to put that one up there.
So here's the trick about that. There are different, on almost all of them, there are different settings. You can have public folders that anybody can see, and those are the pictures that they can use. This is Picasa. Picasa actually is a program that you download and use, and then it shares. My iFi card will automatically upload to Picasa. That's the other cool thing, is they all kind of end up working together, which is really nice. Flickr, for example, they do the same thing. They have a whole photo community. So if you like to take pictures of cats, for example, they have a whole community of people who like to share pictures of cats or anything else that you might be interested in. But then you have to pay attention to the settings. He's right. You can have private, secret ones that only people that you've invited to can come to, or no one, just for you. And then there's usually a step up in the middle in there, and then there's public. You want to watch what you're putting out there public-wise, because then if you do a Google search, your picture's going to come up. So that's Flickr. That's what Flickr looks like. This is PhotoBucket. It's another one that does a lot of, it has communities and competitions. And these are popular things that are happening right now, gives you ideas. And then this one is called, and I just made it go away. There's one called Zang Zing, which for all of you who were on Mobile Me, and that is going away in favor of iCloud, Zang Zing is what we're kind of recommending at this point, because it does a lot of the same things that Mobile Me did. It also will go through and take and find all of your pictures from the places that you want it to. So you can tell it, go look on my Facebook, go look in my Mobile Me account, go look in my iPhoto, go look over here, go look over here, and it'll take all those pictures and put them into albums for you so that you have them all in one place, which is really nice. Yes, after a certain time, you are going to pay for the space. It really... Right. 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 The only problem for you is, where else are those pictures? Okay. So just make sure they're still somewhere else. The problem with, there is one problem with going from Shutterfly, when Zangzing pulls from Shutterfly, it only pulls the low-res versions instead of the high-res versions, which is a bummer. That's the thing I don't like about Shutterfly, is even just to download anything is a royal pain. It's like one by one you're having to download, which I don't appreciate. Zangzing is fairly new. I mean, you'll notice it says, if I invite friends, I get 250 megabytes for free each time I get a friend that comes in. It's going to be a pay service eventually. If you're someone like Dusty who takes lots of pictures and they're high-resolution pictures, you're going to end up, and you're going to want to probably pay for a service. If you're doing a lot more higher-end, there's share sites that are for professional photographers to sell their stuff. You know, there's all the way across the board, different kinds of things.
People are using these kinds of sites. I mean, I always thought Shutterfly and Flickr were really just for sharing. If you're using them for storing, is that like in lieu of like having stuff on your hard drive?
It's really as also a backup. It's a place to have them in a second place. It's nice to know that I have pictures up there that are also on my computer, so that I do have Time Machine, but we haven't had the backing up class yet, and it'll be interesting to see how many people are actually backing up.
I would never keep my pictures solely online anyway. I want real control of them. So it's worth it to me to make sure that I've got the real files and the backup files where I can get my hands on them. And then anything that goes online is just a third place that they go.
Do you keep your high-res images on one of these websites?
Nope. A local photographer that I work with buys, every January he buys 3 500 gigabyte external drives. All his work goes onto the first one. It gets backed up onto the second one on a second location, gets backed up onto a third one on another location.
But location is one of those things.
Right.
Because if your backup hard drive is in the same building as your computer,
Right.
those are the only two places that your computer is.
Yep.
And there's an earthquake and your house is destroyed. Your pictures are now gone.
Yep.
I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but, it gets complicated when you're trying to, because sometimes I get too many copies of a photo.
Yes. So that's part of that.
I wanted to use Bridge
Right.
to organize and share my photos. I couldn't.
It doesn't share.
Get connected to my server for some.
Yeah.
But it made separate copies in different folders buried
Right. So let's talk about that for a second. We started to talk about that a little bit before, where Dusty makes the file folder, it's dated, and all of that, so he knows exactly where those pictures are. Because of people don't like to do that, it takes a lot of time, and they want to be able to find their pictures fast. That's why programs like iPhoto came into being, because it's not by date. You can sort it by events, date, places, people, all of those things. So instead of just having your pictures, it at the root level is in a folder that says what date it is. I mean, it is in the computer like that, but you don't necessarily have to look at it like that. It is really just a piece of information that your computer, you think about it as a database. Your computer has all of this stuff, and so you can go and find it in all different kinds of ways. And that's the power of a program like iPhoto, because when I can look at just events. And sometimes I name it by the date, and sometimes I name it by this was the presentations of Bibles. I haven't used this computer in a little while. And so I can flip through and see all of the things in that event, or I can click on it and have it open all of the things. And when we go into editing, from here I can do some editing with it, but it shows me all of the different stuff. I can also, this may take a little time to open, I can have it open by faces, the things that I've tagged. So those people, if I want to see all the pictures that I've tagged of Button, I can go look at all the pictures I've tagged just of Button. I can also make smart folders that are a particular thing that's going on. For example, maybe throughout the year I take pictures of different flowers, but it just happens to be wherever. It's not by event, it's not by anything. So I may pull it and drop it into that folder. Doesn't actually leave the other folder. It's just showing up as a representation there. So I don't have to know that picture of flowers are in 15 different folders on my hard drive. It's showing up in this one place for me. Yes?
This lady in the back, I do have side-by-side duplicates of the same picture that I'm not sure.
Why?
Yeah, I use Adobe Photoshop Elements.
Okay.
But then I did use Picasa, and it's sometimes I feel like they're both trying to
Grab pictures. And that's very possible.
And then I don't know, these wildflowers. I took it here, there, and in the beginning I don't think they had tagging or whatever. But I don't have any idea how to find my pictures.
And what you did before, it's just going to take some going back and work to put those in, whether you get something like iPhoto where you can organize a little bit better, and it can be, to have those people in faces, that means I do have to go through and say, okay, this is this person and this is this person.
You said the flower.
Yes.
You had to, let's say I need to look, I've been all over taking flowers.
Right.
Do I have to go through every single picture that's?
Yeah. If it's stuff that you've already done and you've not tagged, yeah, you're going to have to go back through and decide where to put them.
I have a PC, so I go back to my pictures. That's the default download
Place, yeah.
That would work. Yeah, that would work. And in my pictures, you create a flowers folder. And underneath that, you can every time you shoot on a day, that would save as a date, and you can put that dated folder under flowers, so you know that it's under flowers and when you shot it. If you want more information, you can add that to the individual pictures. And I use Lightroom, Photoshop and Lightroom a lot, but for my organizing, I use an entirely different program because it pulls things up faster and gives me a nicer graphic. I'll show you what it is. It gives me a nicer graphic interface to work with. Lightroom is wonderful for editing, but I really hate that you have to actually load stuff in to be able to use it. It doesn't automatically find stuff. Explorer, come on. Just regular Explorer will find stuff, but it won't show me raw files. So I need something that will read those in addition to the JPEGs. We'll get into that too.
Yeah. Well, I think we're ready to go into editing. Yeah. Because the program for the iPad or the iPhone that is called iPhoto is only works on those. It doesn't work on the iPad one. That's the reasoning behind it. There's no camera, but it does not work on the iPad one. But I will show you. I will show you iPhoto on the iPad if you want. It's pretty awesome. So you're going to do editing stuff?
We could do editing stuff, yeah.
Yeah. If you'll notice that they're not calling it iPad 3, just like it's just iPad, because just like if you have an iMac, you don't go, this is the iMac 20. Ellen, do you have a question?
Yeah, last question on this one. Okay, so in iPhoto, if you store your photos in iPhoto, that's basically in little
It does that for you. It, by date, does all of that. But in iPhoto, that's okay. In iPhoto then, you can have over here, you have albums, right, which have nothing to do with where they are. Because I can have pictures that I've dragged and dropped from different events into an album, and it can be from 27 different albums. It does not change where that actual picture is stored. It's just how I see it. In iPhoto, it doesn't matter. You don't care because that's not how you're looking at it. It actually isn't making a copy. It just points. It just says, all of the things in this album, I know where they are. I can go and get them.
This is a library function.
Yeah.
The information becomes part of the metadata of the picture. So the picture just sits there, and you don't have to copy it. You just tell it it's supposed to go into this group of pictures, and that group of pictures, and another group of pictures. And
I have a hard time getting away from file naming. So I have a whole other place on my hard drive where I have photos where they're in folders that mean things to me, and they have names.
In reality, that's why you have more than one version of a picture, because it's already storing itself in iPhoto. You're then storing it also in your structure. So you might want to look at.
I put it into iPhoto until I've already cropped and edited and done all the retention I want, and then I put it into iPhoto.
Okay.
So that's where I end up with.
Right. So it just depends on how you want to use them. I mean, really, because there's a difference as a graphic designer, how you use pictures and how you use pictures as a general user. I mean, there's that difference too. So.
And it can get confusing. For example, when I shoot a photo, it's in RAW, and that's no good for anything except for editing. So, and if I want to put it out someplace, I have to edit it, and then I have to make it into a JPEG. And in order to keep that clear, I have a subfolder that's a JPEG folder for those pictures. And then if I want to email it to somebody, I got to make it smaller, so I have a folder underneath it that says smaller. Right? And then last night I had to do a presentation, and I had to change a group of pictures to a particular resolution size, and I had to use a particular color. No color. Wait. Anyway, no color space. I had to use a minimum color space. And so not only did I do that to all of them, I also gave them a different set of names. They were Dusty 1, Dusty 2, Dusty 3, in addition to the file name on it. And I know that seems like, good God, what are you doing that for? Well, partly, once I get done with those final pictures, I can erase that whole folder. Once I get done with those, and I still have all the other levels of folders left. And what I try to never do is remove a good original picture. Now, I was going to mention to you, most of you are probably shooting JPEGs. A JPEG is a type of file that recompresses every time you save it. So if you open a JPEG and you edit it and you save over the top of the original, you get your edited picture, only now it's a little smaller and it's thrown away some information. And if you edit that picture again, same picture, crop it a little bit, decide you might like the faces a little lighter, save it again, it becomes smaller. It throws away some more information. And you have the edited picture the way you want it, but it's 4 times smaller than it used to be when you shot it originally. So I'm suggesting that if you're going to edit JPEGs, you always save it as a second, as a -2 or as a -3, how many ever copies you make, and never save over the original one. You call up the original and start over again.
So the difference there is he's wanting to keep all of those levels in For the average user, iPhoto does that for you
Right,
now.
right.
It does not get rid of anything. So every time you edit something, it does have that version of it, but it keeps the original. And I believe that's a setting that you have to do. So there, in most of the programs now, it doesn't get rid of the original stuff. So pay attention to that so you're not losing information.
Yeah, and you can usually determine that because there's usually, after you get done editing, you'll discover a new folder underneath your folder that says originals. And there they are. So it helps a whole lot. Boy, we toured. Okay. I'm going to do maybe just one fast one. Normally, when you've got a picture, probably the easiest things to do, open the picture, crop it, take out any of the extra stuff, adjust the brightness so that the whites are really white and the blacks are really black, and there are several ways to do that. Adjust the contrast to make things look a little bolder. Add some saturation, and actually better than saturation is a thing called presence. Presence. It's called presence. P-C-E, yeah, not T-S. It's present. What it does is it adds a little bit of contrast, and it brightens the colors, but not in the kind of gross way that saturation does. I'll try to show you a sample of it. Remove the red eye as needed. Usually I'm working with off-camera flash anyway, so that I don't get much in the way of red eye. But red eye is where you look at a picture of somebody and the eyes are red because we're looking at the back of the eyeball. The light gets in there, it lights up the back of the eyeball, it shows up as white, and what you want to do is try to remove that. And the red eye removal programs just zoom down to the eyeball and replace the red with black, usually, and it makes it real simple. The algorithms have been very nicely done, and it's easy to do. Okay, and then as I indicated before, do a save as. If you're not sure if the original is going to get saved or not, save the original as it is. There may be a time when you really want to use that original, and you want it the way it started out, so you can improve it. One neat thing, as the years go by, you get better at doing this. And you go back to the old pictures and say, how could I have left that way? Good heavens, I know much better now, and then you fix it. And you can do that if you still have the original. It's really cool to go back and see some of that old stuff and say, wow, bah, look at, I didn't realize I could do this. So it's very, very handy. All right, let me go back to one of these. Okay, this is the program I was mentioning for a library where it's called AC/DC. There's a pro version, and there's a general version. And the nice thing about it is, in this, what's that? I know it is. I have it. Oh yes, that's true. It's online. Just just do a search for AC/DC Pro 5. It's up to now, and it allows you. One of the reasons I'm using this one to do the demonstration instead of Lightroom or instead of Adobe is that it's easy to get to, and it actually gives you a better image to see under these kinds of circumstances. So let me just set this here. It gives you the normal tree, and then when you go to any picture, you get it in the view mode. There it is in the manage mode, so that you can see the entire folder. There's the view mode, and if you notice on the side, there's that metadata information I was talking about before. This tells you file size, uncompressed size, actual storage size. And all that information about it, and you can add stuff to it if you choose to do that. Then you go to the develop module, and suddenly you have controls that allow you to brighten it, or if you decide to take this, let's say you're okay with the top part, but you want to increase the bottom part, you would go down to lighting, and you would bring up just the dark parts by themselves. And let's say that you want to bring up the dark part, but you want to bring down the light part. So you could then bring that down to highlight sections that you wanted to. Let's say you're working on one of your flower, I'm going to discard that change. Let's take one of the flower pictures. Let's say you want to pull the background down to make the flower look clearer. Now that's actually too dark and too far down. If you do this, you can pull the background right out of it. You can bring up the midtones just a tiny bit. Then you go back and you go into geometry and you can crop it to take out, let's see if I want to keep, crop it down and then maybe shift it over so that you take it a little off center. And you have all kinds of options. Then go back to tuning and take it back up to general. Here's your vibrance. Bring up the vibrance a little bit. It brings up the colors without blowing them out, without having them have funny lines around the edges, without having the color seem to blast out at you uncontrolled. You can do a great deal with just really simple. Yep.
The venue you are on right now is for the general picture as a whole. The venue you had before with the vertical bars,
Yeah.
was that for the region of the picture?
That's for cropping.
So it's making the outline of the picture, you're only taking a section of the picture.
Not the cropping, but you were
Oh,
before you
oh.
were changing.
Oh, the rule of thirds?
You had
Oh,
a
I
venue
see.
that had vertical bars.
Well, okay. I guess I still don't understand the question, I'm sorry.
He's talking about constrained cropper and aspect ratio.
No, I'm not.
Oh,
I'm not. Before you went to the cropping,
When
you
were
had
changing
some
the
adjustments with
Yeah.
vertical bars.
The vertical.
Oh, okay, sorry, yep, hang on. Let me get down here to lighting.
There you go.
Okay, there's the vertical.
Okay, now, the question I have now is, when you change, is that for the region of the picture?
Yeah,
If you change that one right there, that changes the whole picture.
no, changes, notice that the picture, the flower itself is staying the same. It's the background that's changing.
How does it know where the background is?
Because it's, if you think of the picture as a scale of brightnesses, it's taking a narrow a set of those brightnesses and lightening or darkening just that range of brightness. So if you want to change the range of the dark areas, you would adjust just the darks. Now notice that what's happening is just in here. Right? Just in there. Nothing else is changing. It's like taking the entire amount of brightnesses from the very dark to the white to the light and taking the bottom 10% of the darks and just adjusting those. It's a tremendously powerful tool.
It's like an equalizer
Yeah?
in a sound system.
Yeah?
Up and do
Yeah.
different.
Yeah? Yes.
What, each of those bars represents what?
Well, let's take this one. This has a brightener on the top and a darkener on the bottom. Okay? So you're taking that narrow range of brightness and either pulling the bottom one down to make it darker or pushing the bottom one up Right, I'm pushing the upper one up to make it lighter.
And so they all do, I mean, iPhoto, Photoshop Elements, any of the Lightroom will do some form of that.
Yeah,
It just depends, the interface is different.
right.
I'm sorry, but you still get what each of the vertical bars represent.
A certain amount of brightness.
A narrow range of brightness.
Yeah. So,
Let's say we wanted to do the whites. It's just the stuff that was white in the picture. Then we would use the right-hand bar and bring it up to make the whites whiter, but the blacks and the mid-range would stay unchanged.
Okay, so if I'm going from right to left, I'm going from the lighter shades.
That's the lighter over there, this is the darker over there.
yeah, can you see
And
that?
you're talking about each one of the different spectrums.
Yep,
If you see the bar right up at the top, see there, that the two bars on the right side are representing the whitest parts.
Can you point to it, please?
these two.
I don't have his laser with me, but. So you see that bar right there, there's the white, this is gray, this is black. So at this point, there's not very much black in there. So if you pull these up, that black is gonna come over this way. So there's more black in it and less white.
Let me just pull that down. We're going to pull down the blacks all the way. There's the first set of blacks. There's the next range of blacks.
Oh, the range is the word.
Okay? Now notice that the yellows haven't changed much because we're only working with the dark ranges.
How do you save this, or once you've done your editing, how do you get it to Costco to print?
So then you do the save as,
Yep.
because you wouldn't want this to be, once you've done it, you don't want to mess up the editing. So you do your save as, it's now sitting as a JPEG. Just like it is before, it's still the same sort of picture. You have lots of different options, and you can send it to, you can take your disk into Costco, you can burn a disk, take it into Costco. If you're on Shutterfly, you can have it sent to Target, or they'll send you prints. You can send it to Walmart. You can do all kinds of, you can print it out on your printer at home. There's,
Put it on a little thumb drive.
yeah,
Take 20 pictures and put them on a thumb drive.
Yeah, there's a-
And
if you go to Kinko's, there's a, oh yeah, whatever that picture, because all you're doing is changing the data. All you're doing, in any JPEG that you make, you can actually make anything into a JPEG. You can transform it into a JPEG. So you can print out any of those kinds of things as a picture.
Let's go for general questions at this point. We have 5 minutes left. One thing I wanted to suggest is I'm sort of interested in doing a monthly photo class if anybody's interested. And we can do it either as you bring your laptops and we work on software, or we do a shoot. We do a day of shooting portraiture. We shoot portraits of each other and see if we can get the best portrait we can possibly get of us that day. We could do tabletop photography. We could do all kinds of stuff, anything anybody's interested in. So if you want to do something like that, let me know. I'll set up some kind of, what's a good way to do that? You could just email me, I suppose. Let me know what kind of photo class you would like. I'm looking at doing it once a week, sometime during the week. Once a month. Sorry. And if once I know who's interested, I'll make up a list of possible classes we could do, and we'll go from there. Questions? Yes, go ahead.
Sounded to me like what you were saying is that probably better to do all your editing with the program on your computer.
Not necessarily. In this,
As opposed to waiting until you get up to, I'll use a specific example,
okay.
up to Shutterfly.
Yes. Now, they're becoming where you can do editing they have a module that you can do editing. But yeah, I would recommend, because you're not having to, it's fairly intensive as far as what you're doing. I mean, you can do it on your iPad, iPad 2 and above, but I mean, that's what this is. This is iPhoto on the iPad, and you can do all of those wonderful things.
But she's got an iPad.
Yeah,
Okay, the iPad's
right.
already there, so if you learn
You-
how to use that.
Yep.
Not upload it until we're ready to share it.
Exactly.
We're ready for
Exactly.
One time, I did all my editing before
Right.
uploading it to Shutterfly, and all my editing was lost.
It's one of those, I will talk to you about how the best way to go from iPhoto to Shutterfly, because there's actually an export module from Shutterfly. It makes it easy breezy. Yeah, so it's super easy that way. You're not doing it one at a time to Shutterfly. Yep. And most of them have some sort of thing. What I said before about they're all starting to work together. You know, any of these things that we actually didn't talk about, but any of these little programs, most of them have, I think there's only one that I found that didn't. And they will, as part of their thing, is they know you want to share your picture. So they will go to Facebook, they will go to Twitter, they will go to Flickr, they will go to Picasa, they will go, to whatever thing that you need them to go to. I mean, the biggest ones are Facebook and Twitter, because that's how most people are casually sharing pictures. So just so you know what is on here, since we have a couple minutes left, I have smartphone apps that are also applied to the iPad. And if you're using an iPhone, the app is Camera. Camera Plus has more options, which is cool. Diptych and Fusel are ways that you can collage your pictures, which is really fun. And you kind of go, well, why would I want to do that? Well, I was playing with it last night and had a really great time, actually. So I can change any of the things. He was talking about when you do basic editing, almost all of them have some sort of filters that you can apply. The big rage with everybody right now, Instagram, which is one of the things on here, makes your pictures look either 70s hip or whatever. There's all different kinds of ways that you can do. It looks like this. That's just one of the little things that I put on there. The cool thing about all of those is they're encouraging you to share your pictures. Why are you taking pictures if you're not showing them to somebody is kind of the idea now, it seems like. Photo 365, another way to share your pictures, encourages you to take at least a picture every day, and it shows them on your little calendar. Where'd it go? Here it is. So that was the picture I took yesterday, and I need to take a picture today. I can print that, I can send that, I can put lots of pictures so they're all in there if I want to. Some of the ones are starting to have apps, so I can see all my Shutterfly stuff directly on my iPad now. It's an app instead of having to go on the website. Looks a little cooler. It takes the information down a little bit so that it's easier to see on my iPad. But there's hundreds of different photo apps. So if that's something that you're interested in, just go look. And they're all cheap, 99 cents or free. So it's really fun. Any more questions? Oh, I know. You have to come up and look. On a lot of these, you can do books. And not just books, but print pictures, calendars, on a cup, Shutterfly, you can do all of that kind of stuff. These three are Shutterfly hardback books. Why would you want to do a book? Well, this particular one these are the same. One's a hardback and one's a softback. This was the Vacation Bible School pictures. Instead of doing a photo album, we did these books, and then we printed, I think we had 5 or 6 printed. So one's in the library, one went to Catherine, one went to, they went to different places. If I'd had to put together 5 or 6 different books, I wouldn't have done the project. There's no way. Same with this. This is my Girl Scout troop. We used to do photo albums, and there was one for the troop. Now our historian puts together, the girls do these, I don't do these. The girls put these together, and whoever in the troop wants it, we buy one for the troop, and whoever wants one, whatever parent wants one, they can have it printed. If there's a picture they want to change, I don't care, they change the picture. This one is actually from Apple. It's through iPhoto. I think he did it in Aperture, actually. But either Aperture or iPhoto, you can put together a book. This is a book of my particular Wilson family on Rick's side. All of the kids and families and birthdays and all of that kind of stuff is kind of a reminder of who we all are and what we all looked like through the years. So if you want to look at any of these, that's a cool thing. We've done greeting cards, all different kinds of things. So those are the reasons, those are other ways to share those things. Shutterfly is one, for example. I know you have all those pictures up, you select which ones you want. Next day you go pick them up at Target and they're prints.
One comment about this handout. I tried to put this together as, this is terms and concepts, photographic terms and concepts. I went to the internet and I went to several photo terms websites. I found a lot of stuff wrong. Very interesting. So I put down the most common things here that I think you might want to know about and tried to correct anything that was inaccurate. But it's just a starting point, and in a lot of ways it'll just give you an idea of what a thing is, what a megabyte is, what a chip is, what a CMOS is, what a digital stabilization and optical stabilization. Digital stabilization is not a way to go. You want to go to optical, but you can read why here. So I hope you'll find this useful. All right. We're good. Thanks, guys.